think if you have a more refined smut palette, this book is not gonna do it for you. She writes a lot of like alien smut, and I know it sounds weird, but don't knock it until you try it. Instead of scaring him, she feeds off of a different kind of emotion, if you get what I'm saying. I felt like she was just insufferable sometimes. You could ask for anything, and you sat here and asked for a kraken. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is gonna be a little bit different. I've been doing a lot of vlogs and things like that lately, but today I wanna get into my fall reading wrap up before it is no longer fall. I read a few books, I wanna go through them, and then I wanna go over my December TBR. I have quite an ambitious list, and I honestly I haven't been reading as much as I normally do. If you guys are new here, I had a baby not too long ago, and that is where the majority of my time is kind of taken up, obviously. So yeah, I'm gonna try my best to read at least 4 to 5 books in December. I think I can make that work as long as I don't pick up my phone and doom scroll, you know? I think I can make that work. Let me get into this fall reading wrap up because I have about 30-ish minutes before it's time to feed my baby, and I wanna go through all of this and give you guys all of my ideas. I will not have any spoilers per se, just my thoughts on some of these books. Some of them were really good. Some of them were really not. So let's get into it. And I will say the majority of the books that I read were on my Kindle. It just makes it so much easier to read on my Kindle, especially with having the baby. A lot of the times I'm reading at night when I obviously don't want to have the light on so that I can read, or I don't want to fuss with the little book lamp. So I will go ahead and put the picture of the book that I'm reading on the screen so that you know what I'm talking about. So the very first book that I read is called Scary in Love by Holly June Smith. I ended up giving this book a 2.75, and I'm just looking down on my phone because I have a story graph and I put all of my books on there. I do have a Goodreads as well. I will link my Goodreads account down below. But for this book, I gave it a 2.75. It wasn't anything that wowed me, but it was interesting enough that I was able to finish the book and I didn't DNF it. So basically this book is about Jenna and Mason. Jenna loves Halloween, she loves horror, she loves the thrill, she loves being scared, and Mason is now the new owner of this manor in this small town that has been abandoned for quite some time. He inherited it from his uncle. Everyone in the town is kind of like curious about this house because it's a spooky looking manor, and they have all of these different ideas of what actually happened with the owner and who has the house now. But what he ended up doing was turning this house into like a haunted mansion attraction for the fall time so that he can generate money, etc., etc. So that is kind of where the story begins. Jenna ends up going to this haunted manor attraction on a date with someone, and the date is a complete flop. The guy is a super scaredy cat and just ruining the whole vibes, and that is the first time that she meets Mason. At some point while she's in this horror house, she has a little bit of an accident, a little fall, so he comes over to make sure that she's okay, and obviously because this is a actual business, he has to fill out some paperwork regarding this accident, and that is kind of where things take off. The main premise of this book is that he figures out that she loves to be scared, she loves the thrill, she loves all of that good stuff. So he plans a date just for them two, where she has to walk through this haunted house. And there are obviously things that go on as she's walking through this house. It is a spicy book, it has some smut in it. But I will say, for someone who reads books that does have smut in it, I think if you have a more refined smut palette, this book is not gonna do it for you. There were certain parts of it that you're just like, huh? Like, how is that actually gonna work? Or like, how is that, like, certain parts of it, like, it just doesn't, for me at least, it just didn't, not that it didn't make sense, but like it had potential and it just didn't reach it as far as the smut goes. But another problem that I had with this book is that in the very beginning, at the first encounter where she falls and he's, you know, he took her up to the office and he's getting all of her information, he has like this very mysterious, broody kind of character about him, this kind of aura about him. But then throughout the story, before all of this happens and he plans this, you know, date for her, he sees her at a coffee shop in their local town. I will say the town sounds super cute and cozy and atmospheric and all of that. It's very, very cute. But he runs into her at this coffee shop. He keeps running into her purposely at this coffee shop. And the way that he approaches her and the way that their conversation goes, it almost sounds like he is like scared golden retriever as opposed to, you know, mysterious, broody Doberman. And that's what I thought we were getting. And then it turned into him being more of like timid, which kind of ruined it for me a little bit. And then the ending of the story, which I obviously won't tell you, I don't want to ruin it, but the ending of it, I was like, it's an interesting way to end it. So overall, it was a 2.75. It was an interesting read, enough that I didn't DNF it, but not something that I absolutely loved. The second book that I read is Falling Like Leaves by Misty Wilson. I actually have a physical copy of this, but I don't have it on me because I let my oldest daughter borrow it so that she can try reading it out. This book does not have any smut whatsoever, so I knew that she would like it. And the town of Bramble Falls is so cozy and so atmospheric, and I believe on the book somewhere it says something about it resembling Gilmore Girls, and it does. Just in the Rory is entitled, kind of annoying, but she's the main star, so you kind of love her, but you kind of don't kind of way. This isn't like in a Lorelai, more adult Gilmore Girls, if you get what I'm saying. I still think it was a good book, and it was an interesting read, enough that I was able to finish the book and not DNF it, but I did give this one a 3-star. And mainly it is because I felt like the main character, her name is Ellis, I just thought she was so annoying in certain parts of the story from the very get, and it was just so incredibly difficult, and it always is, to give a book more than a 3 stars when I don't like the main character. So she did redeem herself a little bit towards the end of the book, the middle-ish end of the book. She did redeem herself a little bit, but not enough that I could give it more than a 3-star. And I gave it a 3-star because I thought, one, it was interesting. It was an interesting story with an interesting plot. I felt it was very predictable. I knew from the beginning what was going on, where the main character was like, oh, I have no idea what's going on. My mom just wants to ruin my life and have me move to a different place. I will give you the synopsis of the story in a second. But yeah, it was just, I couldn't give it more than a 3-star. So basically the story is about a girl named Ellis, and she is in her senior year of high school, which is another thing. I normally don't read a lot of high school romances, but this book, I saw Gilmore Girls on the back and I was like, yep, I'm gonna grab it. But I digress. She is a senior in high school. She lives in Manhattan, or I don't know if it's Manhattan, but she lives in New York with her mom and her dad. She obviously has a very luxe kind of lifestyle. Her parents make a lot of money. In her entire life, she has been, I guess, kind of working towards her father's approval. He wants her to go to a very specific university, and all of her high school years have been dedicated to trying to get into this university, but her real love is fashion. But her father doesn't believe that that is a sustainable, career. So she obviously is following in her father's footsteps. I believe, I can't remember now that I'm thinking about it because it's been so long that I've read this, but I believe he works in media for a really big company, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, she is in her senior year, and her mother drops a bomb on her that they will be moving to Bramble Falls, Connecticut for a short period of time. She doesn't really give explanation as to why, but the father's like, you gotta go, this will be good for you. And she's like, well, what about my internship at this company that you promised me, and all of this other stuff. So she's really distraught from that very moment, which is in the first few chapters. I already knew what was going on with their family dynamic. Ellis obviously did not. So fast forward, they moved to Bramble Falls. She's super upset about it. She's being such a jerk to her mom about it. Super bratty, super entitled. Just not a super likable character in my opinion. But they moved to Bramble Falls, and in Bramble Falls she has a cousin who I absolutely love. She was such a cutie. And the main MMC, which is Connor. And this is a guy that was her first kiss. So when she was younger, her and her mother would go to Bramble Falls all the time in the summer to spend time with her aunt and her cousin. She met this boy, Connor. They became really, really close friends. Was her first kiss. And through one thing or another, they lost connection. And upon meeting her for the first time, he is acting like he absolutely can't stand her, doesn't want to see her, is upset that she exists. And she's like, what happened? I have no idea. So the story follows their reconnection, what happened. It goes into the details of what happened with the mother and the father. And it does have romance in it, but no smut. It's very, very, very atmospheric, very cozy. Her and Connor find themselves working together a lot because her aunt, I believe, is the mayor, if I'm not mistaken, of the town. And she is there during the fall festival season. So there's always something going on, always an event going on that she has to help out in. And she's always working with Connor. She always ends up working with Connor. So it is a very cute story. I feel like my daughter would like it because she is still young, but I feel for someone who is a little bit more mature and has had more life experiences and is more of like the mom in the book as opposed to being the teenager in the book. When I read it, I'm just like, you freaking brat, like you're so annoying, you know what I mean? But overall, it was a cute book, just not something that I could give more than a 3-star. Moving on to the next book, which is the creme de la creme, the 5-star book of all of my fall reading, is Assistant to the Villain, and this is by Hannah Nicole Mayer, I believe is her last name. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I will put a picture of the book on the screen. I do have the physical copy and I have the special edition copy that I showed in a previous video, but This book was a 5 out of 5 star. It was so good. There was so much action and mystery. It is a fantasy book. But not in the sense of like ACOTAR, where there's so many different places, so many different long names, creatures that are called to this and that. Like, it's a little bit more confusing, and it takes for you to get like a whole book in to kind of get the concept and get the gist of everything. It is not like that at all. It's a little bit more of a simple fantasy, but it is such a good story. Basically, in the story, the main FMC is Evie Sage, and the MMC, his name is Tristan, but he is also known as the villain. In the town that she lives in, there are rumors about this person called the villain, and posters out about this person that looks like, you know, a cross between a monster and a human, and just super evil, and he is known to be an evil person. And in this book, Evie ends up working for the villain, which is why she is the assistant to the villain. Her father has a mysterious magical illness, and she needs work to be able to provide for her family, which is for her father and her little sister, because her father is not able to work due to his sickness. So she ends up running into the villain on her way home one day, and things kind of take off from there, where he offers her a position. She takes that position. She knows who he is, and that he is, you know, the villain, and like what everyone in the town is afraid of, which is funny because she's not afraid of him at all. But the banter between these two, it is so good. There's humor in there. There's definitely no spice in this story, which I think is awesome for this particular story, because it definitely has a lot of like yearning and longing, where they like each other. You know, there's signs that they like each other and that there's attraction there, but neither one of them is making a move. But you can definitely feel it. It is so, so, so good. The way that it is written, I absolutely love it. The humor, the banter, the mystery of it, like the irony in certain scenes, like it is just so incredibly good. And the plot twist, I did not see that one coming. And normally, like with Falling Like Leaves, I knew exactly what was going on the second that I read it, like 2 chapters in. This one, it kind of keeps you on your toes, where you have no idea what's actually going to happen. But there are so many good turns and twists in this book that really keep you on your toes. And I don't want to give too much away, because obviously I don't want to spoil it for anyone. I would highly, highly recommend you to pick this story up. I definitely want to get into the other books in the series. I do have all of them, so I will be getting to them, because this is a very good series that I ended up purchasing all of the books in the series after reading the first one, because I just knew that this was going to be a series that I absolutely loved. But yeah, I will leave it at that. It is an amazing book. I love Evie. I love Tristan. I love their chemistry. I love the banter. I love that he is this, you know, villain and supposed to be the super horrible person, but he's actually a really good person that is just going against corrupt politics and the kingdom and things like that. It's a really, really good book. So that was my 5-star read for this entire fall reading wrap up. Absolutely love it. I would definitely encourage you to give it a try. The next books that I read are short stories. And if you're kind of in a little bit of a reading slump, I would definitely recommend reading a short story, because they're short. They're usually like quick and to the point. And if it's a good one, it kind of gets you back into the mood of reading. And that's where I was kind of at after Assistant to the Villain. I needed to take just a little bit of a break, because it was just such a good story, and I really wanted to kind of like enjoy it, you know? But then I was like, okay, I really do want to get back into reading. So I ended up reading the Scared Sexy series, and these are short stories by different really popular authors like Ali Hazelwood, Ruby Dixon, Katie Roberts. So I'll go through all of the books that I read and what I gave them. The very first one is Hot for Slayer, and this is by Ali Hazelwood, which honestly, I was kind of surprised. I think I've read 2 books by Ali Hazelwood, but none of them had like a lot of smut in it, which is the one that I really liked. Check and Mate is the one that I read from Ali Hazelwood. That was a YA romance, I think my first YA romance, and I really enjoyed that one. So I wasn't expecting like a ton of spice, but this book definitely had some good spice in it. And it follows the story of Ethel and Laszlo. Ethel is a vampire, Laszlo is a vampire slayer, and they have been following each other around and kind of playing this cat and mouse game for centuries at this point. This book was short and sweet and spicy. The characters had really good banter. It had some funny moments in it. It's a short story, you know, so it's not like I'm looking for a lot of depth in this story. It's really just a palate cleanser, and this was a really good one. So this one was a vampire and a vampire slayer. Very, very good. The second one is called Falling by Christina Lauren. Now I have to think about if I read any books. I do have some books by Christina Lauren behind me, like Love and Other Words and things like that. I think I read one of her books, but it was a holiday story. Again, so I wasn't expecting like a ton of like spicy smut in here, but there was really good smut actually. And I gave, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know if I mentioned, I gave Hot for Slayer a 4.5 star. This book, Falling, I also gave a 4.5 star. And this one, it's more of, it's not a vampire. He has a specific, he gives himself a specific name in here, but he definitely has like vampire kind of traits, more in the sense of how he is able to attract people and has this like allure with them. So the main FMC, her name is Catalina or Kat, and the MMC is Briggan, I want to say. Is it Brigan? Briggan? I don't know if I'm saying that right. But in the story, she is going to a Halloween party with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend is very like mediocre. He's, you know, a nice guy, not like an ass or anything like that, but it's just very mediocre. And he happens to be at this party, and he tries doing like that call to her mentally, and it's kind of like she senses it and then she just brushes it off. And because of that, he was so intrigued by her, because normally he can kind of pull this allure and get the person to do what they want, say what he wants, etc., etc., and that didn't work with her. So of course he was super interested, and that's kind of where the story takes off. It is, again, short, spicy. It's good. It's just a good story. I felt like even though it was short, it had a lot of like substance to it. In my opinion, I really enjoyed the story, and I would definitely recommend reading this one. Again, I'm looking down because I'm checking my phone. The third story in the series is called Spicy Little Curses, and this is by J.T. Geisinger. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I gave this one a 3.75, and I will read the review that I wrote because I felt like, which I should have been doing all along, I feel like it really just captures what it was that I was thinking at the moment. I did read these a little bit ago, and some of it is just a little bit fuzzy. Once I read it, it kind of all comes back to me, but let me read what I wrote. I said, overall, this was a good short read. It started off a bit rocky. The main FMC, Petra, was an annoying character to me. Not so annoying that I would DNF the book, but her persistent bossy attitude was a bit unlikable. It stayed that way throughout the entire story, but because of the unraveling events and information thrown your way, it was easier to deal with. Dax was your typical grumpy, dark, elusive man. The fact that his pet name was Sunshine was comical to me. His pet name for Petra, on the other hand, was odd. I understand why it was Notebook. I do remember now. I remember like, why would it be Notebook? Anyway, I understand why her pet name was Notebook, given that she was a journalist, but it was still a bit weird. The actual storyline was quite interesting. A man with ink that shifted. He was the owner of a tattoo shop. A curse brought on by a relative of the far past because of his greed. Meeting Petra after dreaming of her for months. Petra not knowing her true family's background and its tie to blood magic. Her being the key to break the curse of Dax's bloodline. All very interesting and fast-paced, which I enjoyed. The story ended on a cliffhanger, which would have been fine if there was a follow-up to the story, because now I feel like their story is an open-ended book and the mystery continues, but I'll never know what exactly happened. I absolutely hate when that happens. I cannot stand when a book leaves things kind of open and there is no follow-up, because now I want to know what happens. I felt like had this book had a follow-up story, it would have gotten a 4-star or 4.25. But because it just kind of leaves you on this cliffhanger, I'm like, well, now what? Because it's a short story and the next book in the series is not written by this author. It is a completely different author. So that was a little bit annoying, but I gave it a 3.75 for that specific reason, but also because Petra was just a little bit annoying for me. Not like Ellis was in Falling Like Leaves. I felt like she was just insufferable sometimes. Petra was just a little bit annoying, a little bit bossy. But yeah, overall it was a really good story and I enjoyed it, but that one got a 3.75. The fourth book in the series is called Space Vampire by Ruby Dixon. Now, if you guys have been watching some of my videos, then you know that Ruby Dixon is like my guilty pleasure author. She writes a lot of like alien smut, and I know it sounds weird, but don't knock it until you try it. She has a series that is the Ice Planet Barbarians, I think is what it's called, and there are so many books in this series, but they're coming out with new covers and I have quite a few of them. I did not think I was gonna like these stories as much as I did, but I really like them and they're some of my favorites, so it is definitely my guilty pleasure read. Anyway, besides the point, she wrote one that is called Space Vampires, and I gave this one a 4.75. So this one follows the story of Dana, who is the FMC, Vlad, who is the MMC. Now she is a human who has been captured by aliens, and she is kept as a pet. So she has to wear ridiculous outfits and a collar and walk around barefoot all the time. And the aliens that captured her are not necessarily friendly. They give her nutritional bars to eat, so she can't even eat like actual food up there. So it's just not a pleasant, environment to be in. But she is considered a pet and therefore does not have a lot of worth. Vlad, on the other hand, is I guess, a splice of different things, which reminds me of the movie Splice, and my husband had me watch that one, and I wasn't a fan, but I digress. This one is where he is crossed between a vampire and like a gladiator, and at this specific, I guess, like alien spaceship compound, they often get commissioned to make specific tailored creatures, alien, I guess, for whatever it is that that planet, that person needs. So Vlad was a vampire gladiator combination that was needed, but things went wrong during the process, and Vlad broke out of his restraints, so they all fled, and there was only one space pod left. So Dana saw that there was one space after she figured out, like, I'm here by myself, like, okay, where's everybody at? She saw that there was one escape pod. So she's like, cool, I'm gonna get on that escape pod and hightail it out of here. But as she is walking around the ship, she meets Vlad, and they form a connection of sorts. And then they find the space pod, see that it needs work, so they get to working on it. And the whole plan is for them to flee this planet, go to a new planet where they can start a life together. That's basically the gist of the story. But it is really cool, really well written. I think after being upset with the story of Petra and Dax and that being left kind of open-ended, this was a really nice like palette cleanser, and also it is my guilty pleasure, so of course it's alien smut and I was gonna like it. So yeah, it was really good, really interesting. I liked it a lot. I liked how much was kind of crammed into a short story, and I like that their story ended. It started, you see the progression of it, and then it ended. And I really enjoyed that. So that one I gave a 4.75. The fifth book in the series is called Beautiful Nightmares by Katie Roberts. I gave this one a 2.75. Let me see what my review says. Let me read you my review. This one follows the story of Gemma and Caleb. Gemma is a demon, and she is specifically in the realm of like the night paralysis demon, and they have to cross portals. They're assigned a human. They have to cross portals, and they have to scare these humans. They feed off of the humans' fear. And Gemma is really, really bad at being a sleep paralysis demon. She's too kind, she's too timid, and she's being mentored by someone who is taking pity on her and letting her feed off of his extra reserves. But now she really has to get her job done. And she ends up crossing over to the portal. The person she is assigned is Caleb, but instead of scaring him, she feeds off of a different kind of emotion, if you get what I'm saying. And I'm no stranger to weird smut, I guess, alien smut, things like that. But like this one, I'm like, it was interesting. So let me read you my review. Overall, the storyline was interesting enough to keep me reading. It felt very much like an adult version of Monsters, Inc. Gemma and Caleb were both lovable characters, and although the story was very short, you got a good sense of, their characters. A few things that took this book's rating down for me. One, right before they got intimate, there was question after question about Gemma's age to make sure that she wasn't a kid, about possible pregnancy and STDs, about what demon form Caleb preferred, etc. And I get it, but it definitely killed the mood so fast. I've read other Katie Roberts books where these subjects are brought up, but it's done in a much different way that doesn't feel like ice water being thrown onto a hot moment. And I remember that as I was reading this, first of all, the story was already kind of weird to begin with, and I just couldn't really get on board. But then it came to the moment, and it was just like, wait, how old are you? And it's just like, I definitely get it. Consent is super important. I 100% get it. But like as an adult reading a smut book, sometimes it's just like a given, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be told in every single story. Like, there's consent. This person was an adult. It's like, I like, we kind of all already assume that that's the case. And he was a pediatrician, so I guess that's why he was asking. And because, demons and humans, like the ages and the years are different or whatever. So I just thought that was interesting. And then it was also like, oh, okay, like, so you're not a kid. Okay, let's get it going. And then it's like, but wait a second, how about STDs? And it's just like, it just felt like it was kind of ruining it a little bit, and it was already kind of off to a weird start, so that just didn't help. And then the second reason I wrote is right before they got to doing the deed, Caleb moves in a way that hurts an old injury, and Gemma, and I quote, scooped him up and kind of toppled them both onto the bed. It's a personal preference, but I like my MMCs to be strong, tall, towering over the FMCs, possessive, dark, broody, that whole vibe. Caleb felt like everything but that, and that one line truly killed the story for me. Whatever spark there was vanished. Sad, because the story had some interesting bits. It had potential. I could not get over that. Like, I forgot what it was that they were doing, but like, he was like, ow, like, this is an old wound and it hurts. And she's like, oh, come here, and scoops him up. And I'm like, I'm all for women empowerment, you know what I mean? But like at the same time, it's like I like the women, just this is my personal preference. I like women to be the feminine, men to be the masculine, and this felt like the roles were reversed, and it's hard for me to get on board with any kind of smut when I don't feel like the man is masculine. Sorry. So that kind of killed it for me. There was one more book. Let me see if I could find it, because for some reason I did not add it in here, but there was one more book, I think. Okay, I had to collect my thoughts. There is a 6th book in this series, and I could have swore that I gave it my rating and I wrote down all of my ideas and everything like that, but apparently I didn't add that in. So that's why I was like, wait a second, there's another one, because I remember not being a fan of it. And the last one is called My Boyfriends Are All Monsters, and this is by Kimberly Lemming. And I was like, man, that sounds so familiar, Kimberly Lemming. And she actually wrote a series that I really did like. So I was kind of bummed that this one just wasn't it for me. And the series is That Time I Got Drunk and like yeeted a love potion at a werewolf or whatever it is. Like I will put it down below. These books right here, like That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human. There's another one about a werewolf, and there's another one, I forgot. Like I will list them all down below, but she is the author of those books, and I really did enjoy those books. So this one, I think, I'm trying to remember what I rated it. I think it was like a 2-star. I wasn't a big fan. But basically this story follows Lucy Sawyer. She is in a relationship and she goes hiking with her boyfriend and a group of other people. There's another woman in this group that is always like throwing googly eyes at her man, and her man doesn't necessarily like shy away from it. So she's not a hiker. I believe in the story it's definitely told where she's more of like a thicker girl. She's not like an athletic type of girl. So she's kind of slowing down the group. They end up kind of leaving her behind. Between one thing and another, they end up leaving her behind. She phones her girlfriends back at home and is like, I can't believe that this guy did this and blah, blah, blah. And she explains the situation, and all of her girlfriends are like, please, for the love of God, dump this man. We can't stand him. Anyway, so she is now wandering in the woods alone, and she comes across this well, and she takes a coin, throws it into the well, and she wishes to have a Hallmark romance kind of love, because she obviously has not been successful with relationships thus far. And then things start getting a little bit weird, where she decides to turn around and head back to her car and just call things off with this man. And on her way back, I forgot if it was that it was raining or something happened, but she found herself in a pretty serious situation, and she was saved by this like perfect looking human being, perfect specimen of a man. She gets saved by this perfect guy. So she's texting her girls all this time and is like, this is what's happening. I can't believe like this super hot guy just saved me. And he takes her to this town, which already seems kind of weird. Like you're in the middle of the woods and you were on this trail, and out of nowhere, shortly after, there's this cute, cozy little town. Point is that this being, I don't even know what to call him, has taken bits of information of things that were thrown into the well over the years. Sometimes it was books that would fall in there. So he's taken bits and pieces of this, and he molds himself to be this. So he can shape towns. He makes all of the characters in the town and plays all of these different roles, but really he's just this supernatural mythical being. So anyway, she ends up with this guy. She uncovers the story of what's actually going on and decides to stay. There's smut in there, but it's very interesting. This is the one part that I was just like, girl. He was like, you know, I can pretty much be whoever you want me to be, and like shift into whatever you want me to be, and like make all your fantasies come true. And I'm like, you could have asked for Johnny Depp in his prime, right? You could have asked for a Brad Pitt. You could ask for anything. And you sat here and asked for a Kraken with tentacles. Girl, again, I am no stranger to weird smut and things like that, but this, I'm just like, the whole thing was just very weird. And for a long time in the story, I'm reading it and I'm like, okay, this is a short story, but I just can't wrap my head around it. Like, I don't know what the hell is going on. Like, who is he? What is he? It was just very interesting, very weird. This one, I think it was a 2-star for me. So do with that information as you will. And now we are on to the very last book that I read is Fall I Want, and this is by Lyra Parrish. I will put a picture of it up on the screen because I actually read this on my Kindle. I ended up giving this one a 3.75. There were a few things that happened in the book that kind of took it down for me. This story follows Autumn Travis and Zane Alexander. It takes place in a town. This is also very Gilmore Girl-ish. It is such a cute town, very atmospheric. She has 2 best friends and a sister Her sister's name is Winter, funny enough. But it is such a cute town. This book has a 3.75. A good portion of it is just because the town is just so cute, and the interactions with the people in the town and all of that stuff. It definitely gives off Gilmore Girls for sure. Like, I feel like some of the older ladies in the book club definitely give off like a Miss Patty's vibe, and a Babette vibe. Like, it's just a very, very cute atmospheric fall book. It is perfect for the fall time, and I wouldn't discourage anybody from reading it. I just had my own, you know, thoughts and opinions on it that didn't make it a 5-star read, but it was a very good read. I still think 3.75 is above average and is still pretty good. But anyway, this story takes place in Cozy Falls, or is it Cozy Falls or Cozy Hollow? I'm thinking Bramble Falls. I'm sorry. This story takes place in Cozy Hollow, which kind of reminds me of like Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls. But in Cozy Hollow, there is this huge mansion manor up on the mountain, and there are stories and rumors about this house, you know, where the owners of it have died and it's haunted and there's ghosts and all this other stuff. But truly, that is not the case. The owner of this, or who inherited the house from his mother, is Zane Alexander, a billionaire, of course, billionaire romance. And he leaves New York City to go to Cozy Hollow because he's just had a lot of stuff going on in his life. He ended a relationship with a girl that he was with who was pretty much just exploiting him and was a literal demon. So he needed a break. He went to Cozy Hollow to kind of refresh. He hasn't been there since his mother passed away. And on one of the days there, he went to the local coffee shop where Autumn works with her 2 best friends, and he ran into Autumn, and it was definitely like love at first sight for him, but not in the sense of like he sees like hearts flying all around her, but in the sense that he sees her and he is so attracted to her, and it's so magnetic that he's just like, whoa, there's definitely something there. The story goes on to where they keep having these interactions and meeting each other in town, and one thing leads to another where they agree to fake dates. So he would pretend to be her boyfriend, and I think the plan or the contract was up until January. And then she would pretend to be his girlfriend and go to his father's wedding. It was supposed to be like in the Caribbean or something for a week-long thing, and she was going to be his date. Let me backtrack a little bit. He was with this girl. It ended very badly. This girl ended up hooking up with his best friend. No longer best friend, obviously. And now his father was marrying his best friend's mom. So she was obviously going to be there. His ex-best friend was going to be there. It was going to be awkward. So he enlisted the help of Autumn to be his fake girlfriend, ended up turning into a fake fiance to go to the wedding with them. Point is that the things in the relationship just kind of started picking up really, really fast, to the point that it actually becomes a relationship. Now, the reason why I could not give it a full 5-star, although the story was super cute and very atmospheric, and there were a lot of characters that I really did love, but there were a few things that happened that kept me from giving this book a 5-star. Number one, and the main thing, is at the very, very end, this story leaves you on a cliffhanger. It hints towards the middle end of the book another romance between one of Autumn's best friends, Jules, and Zane's ex-best friend, Nick. So it kind of hints at something going on there, and you're like, okay, like I can definitely get on board with this. And had that been the case, this book would have probably ended up being like a 4-star, 4.25, but it leaves you on a cliffhanger. And when I looked to see if there are other books in the series, there are other books, but they're written by other authors, which is kind of similar to the Scared Sexy series that I read, and that book with Petra and Dax, I believe it was. It drives me insane when it leaves you on a cliffhanger, but yet there's no follow-up to it. Immediately, I'm like pissed off. So that is one of the biggest reasons why it was knocked down a bit. The second reason, there's only 2, but the second reason is Zane is a billionaire. Okay, money is absolutely like nothing to him. And I don't want to give away too much of the story, but there is a part in the story where their relationship is definitely progressing pretty fast. And the way that they're planning out this big moment, it just feels like so unrealistic, but like they have so much money, so they can just hop on a jet and go from one place to another and be there in 2 hours. It just felt like just a little bit too unrealistic, a little bit too scatterbrained. Like it was just so much going on in this specific portion of the book. So that was another reason. And I just thought about my last one. At this point of the book, where it is like a pretty big monumental part of the story, they still hadn't said I love you to each other. The way that it was written in the story, I think I'm falling for this person. And it's like, what do you mean you think you're falling? You literally are just made this major decision. What do you mean you think you're falling? You should have already fell a long, long time ago. So it's little teeny pieces like that that just didn't make the story feel super realistic. It didn't make it feel super complete, but it was really, really hard to dislike the story regardless of those parts because it was just such a cute, atmospheric story, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. So I gave that book a 3.75, I believe. Yes. And I really, really wish that there was a second part to this story. To kind of cover the Jules and the Nick situation, but there isn't. I will say this book does have smut in it. The smut, it's good. Like, it's not bad smut, for sure. It's definitely not bad smut, and it's not like some of the other ones that I read this past month, but sometimes it just becomes like too much, and it's just like, okay, like I get it again, you know what I mean? Like, like it was good. It was good. I would not discourage you from reading it. It was good. You might read it and give it a 5-star. I don't know. But that is where I'm leaving that one. So those are all of the books that I read. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books. And now I want to go over super quickly the books that I want to read for December. And I'm going to try my best to at least get 4 books in because I have very like Christmas themed books that I want to read this year. I can't read these after Christmas is over. Like, they have to be in December. So the very first book that I have, which I actually just picked it up recently, it was a blind buy for me. I had no idea what this book was about. I just purchased it because of the cover and the sprayed edges, but this one is called Good Spirits by B.K. Borison, and this one is kind of like a supernatural romance, which I did not know, where the main MMC is the ghost of Christmas past, and the FMC is, what is her name? His name is Nolan Callahan, and her name is Harriet York. Oh, that kind of reminds me of like Charlotte York. It was her in Sex and the City. Was her last name York? Anyway, this is one of the books on my read, so I'm curious to see how that works out and like if there are any spicy bits and like how does that, I'm very curious. The second book, which I'm actually already reading, I actually have it on my Kindle because I have Kindle Unlimited and it is free for Kindle Unlimited, and it is the Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore. I did read the Pumpkin Spice Cafe and the Gingerbread Bakery, I think it is. I read those two. This is another like Gilmore Girls kind of vibe. Super cute, super atmospheric. I did love the first book more than the second. This one, we shall see how it goes. But I'm already about 5 or 6 chapters into this book, and so far it's really cute. So this was my second pick. My third pick is 3 Holidays and a Wedding, and this one is by Uzma Jalaluddin. I feel like I'm really butchering that. And Marissa Stapley. But this one I believe I had since last year and I didn't get a chance to read it. So I have this one as well. And the last 2 books are by Megan Quinn, but these are a bit chunky. So we shall see how I do with these books. The first one is How My Neighbor Stole Christmas, kind of like How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Super cute cover. And I do like Megan Quinn. She is one of the first authors that I started reading when I got back into reading. And I believe the first series I read from her was the Kane Brothers series, which I absolutely loved, and I have some special edition covers of and all that. So she is like rom-com queen to me, so I'm interested in these books. The second one is Merry Christmas, You Filthy Animal, again by Megan Quinn. Really cute cover. This one has cute little sprayed edges and everything. So yeah, those are the books that I'm going to try to get through in December. I will come back with a December Christmas reading wrap up and then get into the books that I want to start for the new year. But so far, this is everything right here. Wish me luck. I hope I can get through at least 4 of these. So we shall see. But anyway, that is everything for this reading wrap up. I definitely like doing these videos because it keeps me accountable with my reading, and I love reading. I don't want that to fall off just because I have a baby and life is a little bit busy now. So this is a really good way for me to keep myself accountable and not pick up my phone to doom scroll so much and just pick up a book or pick up my Kindle and read. But yeah, that is everything for this fall reading wrap up. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you here. And until the next video. Bye, friends.